Welcome back to another episode of What the Gut. I am Allison, your go-to functional medicine nurse practitioner, and I'm here to help you uncover the root causes of your health struggles and get back to feeling like your best self. Today, we're going to be diving into a topic that's gaining a lot of traction in functional medicine, and that is low dose naltrexone, or LDN. If you have been struggling with chronic inflammation, autoimmune disease, or gut issues, or even like those long haul symptoms that just nothing seems to fix, then this episode is for you. LDN is an absolute game changer in functional medicine, but a lot of doctors don't really talk about it. So today we're going to break that down. We're going to break down what it is, how it works, and who this is for. What exactly is naltrexone? Naltrexone in its full dose, which is 50 milligrams or more, it has been used for decades to help people with opioid addiction. Whenever we use it, though, in these tiny doses that I'm talking about with low dose naltrexone, which is typically zero point 0.5 milligrams to 4.5 milligrams, that has a completely different effect on the immune system, inflammation, and even the gut. How does it work, though? LDN actually blocks the opioid receptors for a short period of time, which actually causes the body to increase endorphins. Now, endorphins are known as your natural painkillers. Therefore, it helps regulate the immune system, it reduces inflammation, and supports tissue healing. So, this is really most commonly used for conditions like autoimmune diseases, chronic pain, fibromyalgia, IBS, and even some mental health issues like anxiety and depression. Now let's talk about why LDN is such a big deal for our gut health and autoimmunity. If you've been following me for a while, you know that the gut and the immune system are so deeply connected, and actually around 70% of your immune system is in your gut. When things go wrong, like leaky gut and chronic inflammation, autoimmune disease, like your body really just can go into overdrive. And LDN has been shown to reduce gut inflammation, which is just huge for people with IBS, Crohn's disease, colitis, things like that. So LDN helps regulate the immune system. And this is, like I said, also really great though for people with autoimmune disease like Hashimoto's or rheumatoid arthritis and even lupus. It also helps support the gut lining, which is like an absolute game changer for people who are just really struggling with leaky gut or food sensitivities. Many people report that after they start using LDN, they actually experience less bloating, fewer gut flare ups, and just overall better digestion. We talked a little bit about LDN, but who is it really for? As I mentioned previously, it's often used for conditions like autoimmune disease. If you have Hashimoto's, multiple sclerosis, lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, different kinds of chronic pain conditions like fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue syndrome, different gut disorders, IBS, leaky gut, Crohn's disease, colitis, and even different neurological issues, this really could be great for you. It also can be used for people with chronic migraines or just different types of neuroinflammation, and also has been studied in people with PTSD, anxiety, and depression. So there's really so many different reasons that you could use LDN, and it's actually also being studied in people that have these long COVID symptoms and even hormonal imbalances that's related to inflammation. So that is very interesting. But like any other medication, I always say use this as a tool. It is definitely not a quick fix, but so many people do see improvement while using LDN within a few weeks to months, especially whenever they actually combine gut healing and healthy lifestyle and all these targeted supplements. That's when they see the best results. So use LDN as a tool alongside all these other resources that you have. And if you are considering using LDN or asking your provider about it, here's a few other things that you should know. Most providers, they will recommend starting at a low dose of zero point 0.5 to 1.5 and then slowly increasing that to 3 to 4.5 over time. This really helps minimize any side effects that you might have and is also usually taken at night. So, right before you go to bed, not too late though, because it can actually help boost those endorphins. Remember those natural painkillers that we talked about? And that can help you heal more while you sleep. There are a few other common side effects with LDN. And like I said, sleep, not taking it too late in the evening is one important thing. And that is because you could have some sleep disturbances with that. You could also have some headaches and maybe some mild digestive upset. Most of the time, these side effects are super mild and temporary. And once your body adjusts to it, they go away. So it is just for a small period of time. But some people do report like these really intense, vivid dreams whenever they first start taking it or have some trouble falling asleep, especially like if you're taking it too late at night. So take it before you go to bed. Some people, a select few, have to take it earlier in the morning, but you really have to figure out what works best for you. And also, as far as the headaches go, it really depends on your body if those happen. So there is like a small percentage of people that have headaches with it, but this usually does go away within a few days to a few weeks. But things you can do to help that, like maybe taking a magnesium supplement, making sure that you stay hydrated. There are things that you can do to help subside these side effects. And then I mentioned that some people do have digestive issues like nausea, bloating, stomach cramps. And a lot of times this just means that we need to lower the dose. We just need to take it down a little bit. So it's important to listen to your body while you're taking this and stay close to your prescriber so that they can manage it for you. But like I said, all of these symptoms are temporary, and some people do feel a tiny bit worse before they feel better, but this is not the case for every single person. But it really happened like this because the low dose naltrexone, what it's doing is it's stimulating your immune system and modulating that inflammation. So you really have to think about it like a detox reaction in a sense. And your body is just really adjusting these things and they'll improve over time. So some of the reasons why, though, like I said, if your body's out of balance, instead of blocking that pain or suppressing it, the immune system is really just trying to regulate and rebalance it. So you're going through this adjustment period and your immune function is shifting and these endorphins are increasing. There are different ways, though, that you can help with these side effects. And like I said, starting low and going slow, that's one of the biggest things with any medication. But a lot of people, I really like to start on just that 0.5 milligrams and then just go up slowly. Like I said, also taking it earlier in the evening so that it does not disrupt your sleep and making sure that you're supporting your detox pathways. So what this means is making sure that you're having regular bowel movements, you're staying hydrated, eating healthy food, and other things that are like a gentle detox, maybe taking Epsom salt baths, getting into a sauna, making sure that you're sweating, just different ways to get those toxins out that will help decrease those reactions. And also just give it time. Medications take time. And so, like I said, these side effects usually go away within a few weeks as your body's adjusting, but everybody is different. Now, there are a few situations where LDN might not be appropriate for you, or you really need to make sure that you're cautious in taking it and your provider is monitoring you really well. So, this is very case dependent, but some situations are if you are already taking opioids. So, if you are already taking something like oxycodone, tramadol, morphine, then you really don't need to be taking LDN also because of the way that it is blocking those opioid receptors. And then also, some people with Hashimoto's and other autoimmune conditions, it's great for that, but you do need to be closely monitored because the LDN can impact the thyroid hormone. So you just have to make sure that your provider is monitoring those labs and adjusting everything as needed. So overall, though, LDN is one of the safest, most well-tolerated treatments in functional medicine. Most people experience very little side effects, and those that do, like I said, they're very temporary and manageable. So if you're considering taking low-dose naltrexone or mentioning this to your provider, just make sure that you are working with a knowledgeable provider who can really guide you through this and adjust the dosing as appropriate. And like I said, patience is key. It can definitely take a few weeks to maybe a few months to kick in to see the full potential. So being consistent with taking this is very important too. Now, some of you listening might be thinking, okay, this sounds perfect. I'm going to get this. I want to ask my doctor, but how do I ask them? How do I get this? If you fall into any of these categories that I've been talking about, and then this really would be something that would work great for you, but you definitely do need to talk to your prescriber about it because it's off label. And what I mean is most traditional doctors are not going to prescribe it. Now, what does that mean though? What does off label mean? Whenever a drug is approved by the FDA, that means that it has gone through this like really rigorous clinical trial process that has proven its safety, its effectiveness for a specific condition at a specific dose. So it's very particular. However, doctors are allowed to prescribe any FDA approved medication beyond its intended use. However, that doesn't mean that they always are comfortable doing that. And whenever they do prescribe something off of its number one intended use, this is whenever it's called prescribing off label. Now, in the case of naltrexone, the FDA has approved it. It has been approved it was approved in the 1980s at this high dose of 50 milligrams or more to really help people with this opioid and alcohol addiction and to recover from that because it blocks those opioid receptors. But over time, researchers have discovered that it's got so much benefit when used at these low doses, and it does completely different things, particularly in modulating the immune system, reducing inflammation, and promoting tissue repair. The key point, though, is that the drug itself is approved by the FDA. It's just how it's being used from a functional medicine perspective that a traditional doctor may not be aware of or even comfortable with. I highly advise you to work with a functional medicine provider on this because they are going to be highly educated in this area. And like I said, some of you listening might be thinking this is absolutely perfect, but like, why is this not regularly prescribed by my traditional doctor? Even though there is this like growing body of research and honestly, like thousands of success stories, LDN just isn't widely prescribed by conventional doctors for a few reasons. And the first one being lack of large scale pharmaceutical funding. So the FDA process, it's really expensive, and I'm talking like hundreds of millions of dollars. Since naltrexone is a generic drug, there's really no financial incentive for big pharma to fund these large clinical trials for low-dose naltrexone being used off-label. And without these big expensive studies, a lot of mainstream doctors are just hesitant to prescribe it. And the other reason, too, might be that they lack the medical training and awareness. It's just not taught in school. They don't know the potential benefits of the low dose naltrexone. They just don't know what they don't know. Even in nurse practitioner school, it was not something that I studied. I had to really study it whenever I was furthering my education. So, like I said, they just don't know what they don't know, or maybe they just completely dismiss it because it hasn't gone through that FDA standard approval process for autoimmune conditions or gut issues. Now, another reason is that it just doesn't fit the pharmaceutical model. So, LDN is actually really cheap and widely available through compounding pharmacies. It's just not regularly prescribed, though. What I mean by that is because it's cheaper, it's actually less profitable than other drugs that treat the same condition. So, for example, Big Pharma makes billions of immunosuppressants for autoimmune diseases, and these are drugs that can actually cost up to thousands per month. But LDN, by contrast, really only costs like 30 to 50 bucks a month, and there's a lot less side effects. But Big Pharma is not making a big profit off of that. Now, the fourth reason is that a lot of traditional doctors want to see the research, and they're waiting for that I need to see more research type mentality. And they just don't feel comfortable prescribing anything that's off label without any official FDA guidance, even though off label prescribing is actually so common. Metformin being prescribed for PCOS, that is something that is off label. Antidepressants for chronic pain, that is something that is off label. Beta blockers, they're typically for high blood pressure, but being prescribed for anxiety is something that is off label. So there are many reasons for this, but it's just going to vary on the provider. There is so much growing research, though, on LDN, and there's so many positive outcomes that we have seen people experience. So it does not have to be FDA approved for gut health or chronic pain just to see these promising benefits. If you are interested in trying low-dose naltrexone, I hope that you have become a lot more knowledgeable in low-dose naltrexone and feel confident to ask your provider if you're a candidate for this, if it is something that you are interested in. If this episode helped you, please share it with a friend who might need this information. And if you absolutely loved it, please leave a review. It really helps me spread the word about functional medicine and gut health. I'll see you next time on What the Gut, and keep taking steps toward a healthier you.